Meanwhile, Democrats are resisting on immigration and even infrastructure. So will any deal ever get done? Want to go to RealClearPolitics co-founder Tom Bevan, Independent Women's Forum Board of Directors Nan Hayworth, and After the Bell co-host David Asman. Tom, I want to start with you. You're actually having trouble seeing any of these deals getting done.
I am, Charles. I mean, there's so much pressure from the left and from the right pulling the parties apart. It's hard to see how a deal gets done. You look at immigration, for example. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, Charles Schumer they've got serious pressure from the left side of their base. They want to do just a tight DACA deal, nothing more. Where Republicans, you know, they want more. They want changes to the visa lottery, chain migration, you know, money for the border wall, all that. And you won't get a deal unless those things are included. One that can pass the House and the Senate, by the way, and get to the president's desk. And so I just don't see the ability of the parties to fashion some compromise like that could get through both chambers. And you've got kind of the same thing going on infrastructure.
Right. But here's the problem, though, Nan. For me, it's infrastructure. I hit a big pothole this weekend, and and it didn't discriminate. It didn't ask me if I was Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Right? It just ate my tire.
That's right.
You know, these are topics that have been on the progressive agenda for a long time. How do you go against infrastructure? How do they not pass a DACA deal after compromising on more defense spending? How do they go back to their own constituents and say, "Hey, we stood up for you by not getting it done"?
Well, Charles, and I know because I was there in the House of Representatives, and politics, unfortunately, enters into all of these decisions. And as we all know, painfully, we don't have a governing majority in the Senate on the Republican side. So that makes it very difficult to get things done.
But my question is, how did Democrats not go for this? In other words, when you were there, was there this sort of resist at all costs, no matter what, even when they're giving us things that we have asked for, at least we said we wanted. Now that they've put it on the table, we still ignore it just to deny them any sort of victory.
Right. And we heard what Tom just said, and I agree with him. The Democrats are getting tugged very hard from the far left. We've seen what's been happening in Democratic politics. There's a tremendous sentiment against the president that they think they can use politically, and that's going to be their theme this year. They are going to, capital R, resist President Trump. They think, so long as they perceive that it's to their political benefit not to go along with the president and to blame the Republicans, if they can plausibly blame the Republicans for not making progress on DACA, they'll say they're not giving us what we need to get that done.
Plausible blame. That's a tough one.
Plausible denial is usually the phrase that's used. I think Nan was right up until the budget deal, because it's clear that the Democrats' whole strategy was based on a hate Trump idea. That is, that was strong enough to carry them through to a majority in November. Then they saw how much they were able to get as a result of this budget deal. I think they were floored. You've noticed, and I'm sure Tom has noticed this as well, the rhetoric seems to have changed in the past couple of days since the budget deal came through. You see Schumer now saying publicly, we can't just go into November with an anti-Trump attitude. We have to go plan for something. Of course, they don't have that much other than DACA. But the point is that right now they got so much. That's why Tom has a colleague, John Tamny, who edits the Real Clear Markets website, which is just as good as Real Clear Politics. And Tamny is always saying, I hope they don't do any deal, because the markets will be better off and the American people will be better off. We can't afford another deal. And I think that the budget deal proved that.
Well, accommodating Democrats.
Well, but so on that point, Tom, it's a dangerous slope they're going down, particularly with the Democrat infighting. Nan talked about the party being pulled to the left. There's an article, I think, in the New York Times questioning Nancy Pelosi's iron grip anymore. Maybe the party itself is not sure what it stands for, but it's a dangerous gambit, I think, when they've been offered so much. I don't know that any traditional Republican president would have offered the things that they have been offered, and I think they would be nuts not to come to the table.
Well, I mean, look, Trump is sort of in a unique position to, you know, go to Nixon going to China type situation on immigration. But, I mean, look, this is, you know, the left-wing base of the party. Luis Gutierrez, a congressman from out here in Illinois, was, among others, was upset that the Democrats did the budget deal. They wanted the government to shut down. They want to go to the mats on the Dreamers. That's why you saw Nancy Pelosi stand up for 8 hours in the well of the House just last week.
But they don't have to go to the mat. It's an offer's on the table, an offer for almost 300% more of DACA recipients that even signed up under President Obama. Why? They don't have to go to the mattresses or the mat or anything like that. Just step up to the table.
But, Charles, that offer is on the table in exchange for changes to chain migration, the visa lottery, and money for the border wall. Democrats don't want to do any of that.
Well, Nan, someone once said elections have consequences. Right. It's interesting. You lost. By the way, you lost a lot, not just this last election, but the last several elections, state houses, gogovernorships, the House, the Senate.
1,000 seats.
So guess what? It's nice that you want certain things, but you're being offered something that you probably would. I think it's a dangerous gamble on their part. I think that the DACA recipients and those who would like to see this done would see right through them if they don't get it done. I think they're taking a dangerous risk.
Charles, I agree with you. They can't take yes for an answer, basically, from the president. And they do. They are playing a dangerous political game, and it is entirely a political game. They could, and they're not stupid. I mean, they know they could help these DACA recipients. And, of course, the administration has expanded the offer to nearly 2 million
Well, if they're not
people.
stupid and they don't help the DACA recipients, does that say they have really a low opinion of the would-be DACA recipients?
No, I think they perceive, and I think their political calculation is mistaken, because President Trump has also accomplished tremendous regulatory and tax cuts that are helping this economy.
But he did that with the exception of the tax cuts, he did that on his own. I mean, with the deregulation. And the important thing is here, any deal that has made with Democrats is going to cost us all a lot of money.
Right.
I think that's why the market is tanking, partly, is because of the fact that they saw that the budget deal was going to
Well, ironically, though, yesterday when the budget was released, the market went up 250 points.
It had already been baked in. The point is that there is the deficit is going to be growing to enormous. We can't sustain trillion-dollar deficits forever. By the way, the deficit is a percent of GDP. Look at this. I put this together. These are past 5 presidents. The middle president there, Bill Clinton, everybody else was 4%. Obama was 5.8%, but Bill Clinton was 0.5%. That's because back in those days, it was done at a time when Democrats and Republicans were working together to lower the deficit. They were working together to cut costs on welfare reform, on tax reduction. Remember, there was the capital gains tax reduction. There were some important messages to the American people that the era of big government was over. Bill Clinton said that. We don't have any Democrat willing to say that right now.
That's right. Now, the Democrats have become highly polarized and highly politicized. My point was actually, yes, that with the economy improving, the Democrats are playing a very dangerous political game for themselves. They are hurting themselves.
And I'm going to ask Tom about that because, Tom, I'm sorry, we have enough time? Real quick, Tom, this latest Quinnipiac poll shows that people thinking the economy is good or excellent is at 70%. I don't think the number ever got above 32% under President Obama, and now the majority give President Trump the credit for this. All of these polls are going to continue to move in the favor of the White House and the GOP, again, putting extreme pressure on the Democratic Party.
I agree, and we've seen that number not just in the Quinnipiac poll, but in other surveys. I mean, there's definitely a feeling, and the public feels the economy is moving in the right direction, and now Trump's starting to get credit for it moving forward. That was what Republicans hoped for heading into the 2018 elections.
All right, guys. Thank you all very, very much.